that the powers that be are listening to our show live. They are, because they immediately change it. But we screenshot it and sent it to the proper websites.
The ether.
Yes,
you can follow us on Facebook.com/Smith Radio, and you will be plugged into all our stuff. If you're a Twitter fan, follow us at Smith Radio on Twitter. And I keep forgetting to mention this. If you're into iTunes and you want to listen to us on iTunes, we're there on iTunes as well. And you can go directly to us on iHeartRadio at iHeart.smithradio.com.
So that result that I was talking about, the actual Google answer that's at the top when you ask questions,
right,
and they decide to do that, it's called a featured snippet. And according to Google, a featured snippet in a search is when a user asks a question in Google search, we might show a summary of the answer in a special featured snippet block at the top of the search results page.
Wow.
This featured snippet block includes a summary of the answer extracted from a web page plus a link to the page and page title and URL. The featured snippet might look something like this, and then there's a diagram. So where does this answer summary come from? The summary of the snippet extracted programmatically from a website. What's different with a featured snippet is that it is enhanced to draw user attention to the results page. When we recognize that a query asks a question, we programmatically detect pages that answer the user's questions and display a snippet as a featured snippet in the search results. Interesting. Oh, how can I mark my page as a featured snippet? You can't. Google programmatically determines that a page contains a likely answer to the user's question and displays the result as a featured snippet. Interesting.
So it won't stay up there forever. It may not.
It depends on whether or not the program that Google came up with decides whether or not this is. So there is a software out there that has decided to hate on Cruz.
Right. well, maybe not hate on him, but obviously throw this up there that nobody's talking about. Breaking news on Smith Radio: Robert N. Clinton, and I cannot find any connection to him and the Clinton family. He was born and raised in Michigan, by the way, so I think it was Detroit, Rock City. So I don't know. Who knows? That's a really strange, odd thing that Cruz became a citizen in 2016.
That's just unbelievable. I thought it was 2014.
He renounced his Canadian citizenship. But in 2016, his citizenship was extended and to be president. Like it was grandfathered.
Yeah,
they took his citizenship and put like a star on it, which means
an asterisk.
An asterisk, yeah.
Okay.
Kind of like Pete Rose in the Hall of Fame. He's not, but in the record books, he's a Hall of Famer. But he's got an asterisk. So Ted Cruz can't go to the Hall of Fame, which i.e. the presidentship, if you've got an asterisk next to your name.
I'll go along with that.
So Ted Cruz heads to New York this week, and the Daily News puts a picture of him and his wife up on the front page, and this is because of all the riotousness that is lashed out against Ted Cruz.
Should we back up and talk about Wisconsin first? Because
let me do this one, and then we'll go to Wisconsin.
Because chronologically, the Wisconsin thing is probably... But anyway.
Yeah. So it says, honey, how do we get out of the Bronx? Because the Bronx is blowing up on him.
Oh, yeah.
Running him out of the Bronx. And then in big, bold letters, it says, take the F-U train, Ted.
Yeah, and there is an F train. And there is a U train.
So you got to take the F train to the U train. That'll get you out. FU train.
And it's funny because I guess they color code all these different lines in New York. And they use the actual graphic of the F with the color. It's like a circle, and the U, which is a different color. So it's I guess if you're a New Yorker that uses these lines all the time, this is probably hilarious.
Well, he had to cancel some of his all of his events because of threats of walkout from students, and everywhere he went, he got tons of jeers and people screaming.
Oh, he's having a heck of a hard time in New York.
No good at all.
You know, I kind of intuitively knew that there's probably a little bit of a rivalry between the states of Texas and New York, but it never became more obvious than when first Trump lost really bad in Texas.
Well, I was going to go back all the way back to the Tabasco or the salsa.
Oh no, that's how I originally right. Well, that's a good way to explain it, but it just didn't dawn on me until I started reflecting on what happened to Trump, who was supposed to originally win in Texas initially, and then the numbers changed, and then the primary happened, and he lost pretty bad in Texas. And then, here we go with Ted. My initial reaction was, I don't think Texans like New Yorkers. And then we brought up the Pace commercial. He's got it.
Floyd, more Pace picante sauce.
There you go.
Floyd, this ain't Pace.
Well, so what?
Pace is made in San Antonio.
By folks who know what picante sauce should taste like.
Hey, this stuff's made in New York City.
New York City?
Pick up the original.
Maybe we were a bit too hard on Floyd. Nah.
And they showed him tied to the back of the truck. They
are literally tying people up on their car, not because they're from New York City, but because they dared present to them something for consumption that had to be made and manufactured, produced in New York City, and they're like, New York City! I don't even know what accent that is. That doesn't even sound Texan.
That was from 1993.
And it's been simmering. So, of course, New Yorkers are like, they probably saw this.
They knew it back in 93.
Yes. So, it's like, you want to hate on our boy Trump in Texas? And you want to dare say, do you have the sound clip of Ted saying that we don't want New York values?
Yeah, he's getting
and now he's trying to apologize for it, for saying bad things about New Yorkers.
Okay, so this guy on YouTube took that soundbite and he faded in sound and added pictures when Trump gave his response. So he kind of cut it up a little, did a little a mashup.
This is on our Facebook page if you want to see it.
And it's emotional. It is probably the greatest, single-handedly the greatest comeback that I think Trump has ever made in any debate. So here we go on now.
Suggested Mr. Trump, quote, embodies New York values. Could you explain what you mean by that?
I think most people know exactly what New York values are.
I am from New York.
What you're from New York, so you might not.
Oh!
I promise you in the state of South Carolina.
To the moderator.
Everyone understands that the values in New York City are socially liberal or pro-abortion or pro-gay marriage, focus around money and the media.
And just so, if I could, because he insulted a lot of people, I've had more calls on that statement that Ted made. That New York is a great place.
In the music.
It's got great people. It's got loving people, wonderful people. When the World Trade Center came down, I saw something that no place on earth could have handled more beautifully, more humanely than New York. You had two 110-story buildings come crashing down.
They're showing clips of this as he's saying.
Thousands of people killed.
So I'm mesmerized by it again.
The cleanup started the next day, and it was the most horrific cleanup probably in the history of doing this and in construction. I was down there, and I've never seen.
They're showing the interview of Trump at those towers.
Fought, and we saw more death, and even the smell of death Nobody understood it, and it was with us for months. The smell, the air. And we rebuilt downtown Manhattan, and everybody in the world watched, and everybody in the world loved New York and loved New Yorkers. And I have to tell you, that was a very insulting statement that Ted made.
Oh, and they're clapping for him saying that it was insulting. Oh, I forgot about that response, but you know, I remember seeing him say it live, and he just said it. But with this video, they're playing exactly what he said without editing it, with pictures of
the tower falling.
Yeah, there was a clip of the towers actually falling, and then there was also like still shots of the rubble. The people cannot even imagine how enormous this twisted pile of smoldering metal I-beams all over the place,
blocks and blocks away.
Yeah, and then I tell you what, I don't know if it was just because he experienced it and this is his way of describing it, or if it was just political genius. But when he talks about the smell, and then he repeated that several times, if people know anything about the brain, smell and memory are right next. They're butted up against each other in the brain.
Right.
And so that's why smells can bring back memories really, really quick. And he didn't introduce a smell to the audience, but just by just telling you about the smell.
Well, your brain starts to run down that road. Well, what would it smell like?
What would it smell like? Right. And just imagining what it smells. Did I ever tell you about that study that when athletes mentally practice, when they visualize them performing their athletic feat?
Correct.
It's identical to actually practicing.
Was it the study with I read a study where they did basketball players that practice free throws physically.
Yes, that's what it was.
Okay, physically free throws,
and
mentally free throws, and then another group who did play on the team, but they didn't do nothing. Right.
And they found that the people who practiced the free throws and the ones who visualized practicing the free throws did exactly as well. And then the ones that didn't do anything did worse.
Right.
And so, but that was only part of it. They did this with a whole bunch of different athletes on all kinds of stuff. And so just visualizing your athletic feat is as good as actually practicing it. That being said, Trump just saying, oh, the smells, I mean, you could smell the death. And people start to then imagine what it must have been like to smell it, even if they weren't even there.
Right.
And all of a sudden, just the visualization of smelling something taps into your memory bank.
Because we've all smelled something rotten or gone bad, rotten eggs,
right?
Or even as a kid, I couldn't get this smell out of my room. Couldn't figure out what. There was a cup of milk under my bed for like a month. It was cheese. It was rancid.
Oh, no.
It was awful. And so that'll come back to me.
No, but I could tell you just from, this is anecdotal evidence, obviously, but just hearing him say the smells 2 times actually kind of helped me to remember the day, even though I wasn't there. I never smelled anything from 9/11. I never stepped foot anywhere within 500 miles of New York City on that day or during that week or I wasn't there to smell it. But him just saying it first made me think to myself, what must it have been like to smell it? Then it started to make me think of what it must have been like to have been somebody who would remember those smells. And then all of a sudden, I start to remember vividly that day.
Oh, I get into it because we were at that age where, it's like yesterday for me. I was laying in bed in college in a house with guys, and they were watching it on TV, and I was dreaming about buildings being something was going on in a dream, but that was because they were talking. It was on the news. And when I woke up and I walked out and I sat there, and that before our first cup of coffee,